an OSHA requirement. That's one of those things that they require you to do is keep you for 30 years. This is the new GHS, the revised hazard communication standard. Some of you probably seen this, but I want to go through it again because this is real important because Elaine was talking about the little pictograms, the little cards. This is the picture. I just want to talk about the pictograms and go into it a little bit more detail. If you've not seen, the whole information on this, this is what OSHA says that you're supposed to, the training we're supposed to have on the new hazard communication standard. Like I say, they were originally material safety data sheets. They've been working on this thing for several years, but in 2012, they reached through the United Nations, they reached an agreement with almost all the countries in the United Nations are under one system of identifying hazardous chemicals now, which is a good thing. Like I say, I used to work in a manufacturing plant. I was a chemical safety coordinator for this company, and I would find out we'd get stuff from Germany and Italy and Canada, Mexico, and China, chemicals, and you would not understand. I mean, they would have it in English, but it would not be in a standardized format. Now they have it standardized, and so that's what they came up with, but they wanted to have the training for it, so that's what we're going to talk about today. This is what is required when we talk about the new HGS training. You got to talk about the product identifier is how the hazardous chemical is identified. We're going to talk about, they use signal words now. They used signal words before, but now they're all using the same words. They're using pictograms that we've already talked about a little bit. There's another thing that's pretty important. It talks about a hazardous statement. This is going to tell you the nature of the hazard of that product. And there's another section in there that's talking about precautionary hazard. This is going to talk about how you can protect yourself from that chemical. And then, of course, the location is required to be put on there as where that chemical comes from. And then we're going to talk about the new safety data sheets, what used to be MSDS. They changed them into a standardized format. The good thing about this is if you dealt with a lot of chemicals, there was not a standardized format. And now they've got them all, everybody's got them in the same order now, or will have in the near future. Talks about product identifier. It identifies the name of the product. It also has a unique number. The supplier is the one that identifies this. The label will include signal words. There will be danger or warning. We're going to talk about what each one of these mean. Here's just an example of what a label might look like. The product identifier. It will have up here at the top. There's nothing filled in here, but you can see it. It would have the product name. It would have the number. That's what we're talking about. The product identifier. Next information that you'll see, the product identifier, where it came from, also signal word. We're going to get into what these signal words mean in just a minute. Here we're talking about the signal words, those two words. And this, I think that they've simplified this, and it makes a lot of sense. When I first saw this years ago, I didn't really understand where they were going, but now that I've done it, it makes a lot of sense. Two signal words. Danger means it's more severe, and warning means it's less severe. That don't mean you don't pay attention to anything that says warning on it, but it's to let you know that it's not as bad as danger. This is words been used a long time, and still being used today, even on physical hazards, like a piece of equipment. Next time you use your lawnmower, look, if it's a new lawnmower, look on the lawnmower somewhere and you're going to see the word danger. That's on the lawnmower. Anytime you see that word danger, that means that there's something there that can harm you pretty bad. If you see the word warning on there, it's something that's not as severe as hurt. They still use these words. Some chemicals are not hazardous enough to have a signal word and it won't appear on the label. So there are some, there's some chemicals you will not see this on there. There's your pictograms, and we're gonna break each one of these down so you kind of have a little bit of understanding what they mean. Does that card over there have 9 on it or 8 on it? Does it have the environmental on it? 9? It's got 9, yes, it's got the environmental. I left the environmental off because it would be right here on the card that you have. There's another one on there. If the environmental, that means that it could affect, if it got into the storm water or something like that, get into the water system. It's not, that one's actually not regulated by OSHA, that one, but I left it off my presentation. There are 8 pictograms. Some of them are for health hazards, some of them for physical hazards, and they are actually, some of them, there's ones that are health hazards with the blue star. These have health hazards. And then the ones with red star are physical hazards. And then the one in the middle is corrosive. It could have both a health hazard and a physical hazard combination. Look at the different, or what they have done with these pictograms. What they've done to them is they put a red border around them. And this is so that when you see anything inside a red border like that, you'll know that that's where your pictogram is located. They will not be a blank pictogram. If it's got a red border, there's going to be a picture in it. We talked about the health hazards. Everybody's been familiar with this. It's been around forever. Skull and crossbones. What's that mean to y'all? Poison. My grandson would say that means it's pirates. He'd go, if he just learned to say that. But it's poison, and that's been around. As long as I remember as a kid, I remember seeing the skull and crossbones. So it means it's poison. And you can see it says it can be acute, a toxicity. Where we talked about stuff being toxic just a few minutes ago. It can be severe. That skull and crossbones, it's usually when you go across something like that, it means something that can immediately have an effect on you, and it could be severe. If you have, this is a new one. To me, it's new. For most people, I think it's probably new. It's an exclamation mark. This is a health hazard. You'll see this one used a lot. A lot of cleaning products have that symbol. It says acute toxicity, but less severe. Usually these are irritants. They can have respiratory tract irritation. It could be some type of skin rash that could occur from this. But it's not as severe. You can see the picture up here. Yeah, there's the picture of the thumb there. It's turned kind of red. The next one is another one that you're going to be, this is new, fairly new to me anyway. It's a health hazard. You're going to see this one. It's called the starburst. And that's not the candy. If somebody asked me that means the candy can have that on it. No, that's starburst. Over the chest is something that potentially is a carcinogen. That'll be enough to see when if you went up and look at that label and you see the starburst on there, you know that chemical is a potential carcinogen. It can affect the respiratory system, reproductive system. They will stick that emblem on a chemical that affects target organs like the kidneys and the liver. So anytime you see that, that's telling you there's something in that chemical that can harm you. I told you there was a pictogram that had both health and physical. Not always, but in most cases. Bleach, common bleach will have this pictogram on it. And you've probably already seen this. They've been using this for a while. It has a health hazard because of skin corrosion, serious injury, eyes, eye irritation, laundry bleach. It is corrosive, but also laundry bleach, you store it on metal, it's corrosive to metal too, because it eventually will eat away that metal. Because if it leaves metal, it leaves skin. That's another easy way to see it. And that's what they're showing in this picture. Pour it on metal, it eats the metal, pour it on skin, it eats the skin. That's the picture that they're trying to show you in that pictogram. The next one is physical hazard in the pictograms. You'll probably never ever come across anything just like that right there. It's a floating bomb. And also, this is a very common one here. It means it's flammable. If you had some paint thinner, acetone, or something like that, it would have that emblem on there to tell you it's flammable. It says it's self-reacting, self-heating, emits flammable gases. Is some of the examples of it. I tell you where you find something like that, but not, you shouldn't find that in schools. People that come on to do fireworks shows would have, they wouldn't do it at school, but I mean, like at a fairground or something like that, you would see that on the side of their truck or on the side of the box. But if you ever seen that on the side of something, you need to stay away from it because there's something in there that will explode. The other one, very common. This one hasn't been used. Have y'all ever seen that before? The flame over the circle is what they call that. A lot of your cleaning products will have the flame over the circle on it. That means that it is an oxidizer. And what that word means, oxidizer, means that it can produce oxygen. And typically these things, oxidizers will, sometimes you mix them with chemicals, they produce oxygen. Sometimes they're involved in a fire, they start emitting oxygen, and it feeds the fire. So a lot of your cleaning products are considered to be oxidizers. And it will see, if you see that on the label, really the caution I would see if I was working with something that was an oxidizer, I would want to make sure I kept it away from open flame and heat. It's usually the two things, or other chemicals. Just the two things or three things that I wouldn't want to come in contact with. I talked about the gas cylinders. Now they put the gas cylinder inside in the pictogram, and that's gases under pressure. I'll show you in the next slide. It talks about you could have more than one pictogram on a product. It's not uncommon to see this. You can have multiple pictograms. In this particular one, this pictogram is corrosive. It's an oxidizer, and it's under pressure. So this is something that maybe it could be in a spray can, and it could be corrosive if you got it on yourself or on a piece of metal. If it was involved in a flame, it can produce oxygen, and of course, if it's in a spray can, you know it's under pressure. The label, the hazard statement, is another important piece of it. This statement is assigned to a hazard. It tells you including the appropriate degree of hazard. These are some examples of what you might see in these pictograms across here. Underneath here is going to be your signal word and hazard statement, and that's going to be on that label. It's going to be in your SDS book. The first one there is the skull and crossbones. If I come across this one, I would know that the signal word is danger, and I told you danger means that it's the most severe. It also tells me that how I could be injured by it. The hazard statement is how you can be injured by it. And in this case, fatal if inhaled. Now you want to really pay attention to what you was working with if you had this one that y'all have on the left-hand side there. And skull and crossbones told you it was danger, told you it was fatal if inhaled. You wouldn't want to be standing over a bucket of it, would you? On the other end, go to the other end, the exclamation mark. It tells you it's a warning, so you know it's not as hazardous, but it does have some hazard to it. It's harmful if inhaled. I tell you where you're going to see this one. We got something in this room that eventually will have this that pictogram located on it. What do you think it is? Huh?
Light bulbs.
Light bulbs, it could, yeah. Never thought about that one. But this is a little bit closer to the ground. The fire extinguisher. The fire extinguisher will have an exclamation mark on it. Because it's harmful if inhaled. If y'all never breathe the powder that comes out of one of those things, it will say it's non-toxic, but it's an irritant. It can cause respiratory, an irritant in the respiratory tract. It's not toxic, but it can, and some people can cause serious breathing problems, breathing that stuff in there, in a fire extinguisher. So it will, eventually fire extinguishers will have that on it. Precautionary statements. That's the one, I told you, this is what you find that's going to protect you from that chemical. And it will be listed on the label, it'll be listed in the material safety, or the safety data sheets. This is going to be your recommendations and measures to protect yourself against the hazard exposure. It's going to tell you about how you properly store it. It's going to talk about how you properly handle it. And here's some examples of what you might see in a common precautionary statement. Wire respiratory protection. Wash with soap and water. Store in a well-ventilated place. And just give you some real simple directions that how to protect yourself from this particular chemical. How do we use the label information? In the precautionary statements, you can see here the proper storage of the chemical. It says keep the container tightly closed, stored in a cool, well-ventilated location. If you ever see a product that tells you to keep the container tightly closed and stored in a cool location, probably a good idea to follow those instructions. If you leave the lid off, you put it somewhere where there's temperature or whatever that liquid is in that container is going to turn into a vapor, and it's going to be in that room that you've left it in. So that's giving you some good information. Also, in the precautionary statement on that label, I told you the label's going to give you a lot of information now. It's going to tell you what personal protective equipment, your PPE is required. It's going to tell you on that label, it's going to tell you about your first aid information. Also, it's going to have on the other side, on the right-hand side of the label up there near the top, you see your two pictograms that are up there. Our two pictograms, it's a starburst, potential carcinogen, and also it's flammable, so that's pretty dangerous. Gasoline would have those two on it. No, this is not necessarily one from gasoline, but gasoline would have those two pictograms on there. It has a signal word which says danger. And in this particular product, it actually says what the hazard statement is. It's highly flammable liquid, it's a vapor. And it says it may cause liver and kidney damage. So that's telling you what organs it targets. And this is going to come right off the label. This is an example of what the label will look like. Maybe off the product that you get that comes in. You may see a label that looks like this, and there's the two pictograms. Here is some other information. This is the NFPA placard that may be applied on there. Employees who store chemicals may either use the new OSHA label system or continue using the NFPA 704 or the system or HMIS system. But eventually they're going to require you, after June of 2016 to actually, that product, if you do secondary container labeling, it's going to require that you have a picture of that new label, or that new label is going to be on that product. Now what I'm talking about is, and everybody in here, and especially custodians use this, you've got a 5-gallon container over here or a 55-gallon drum, and you transfer something from that drum into a spray bottle or into a jug, so you can take around to do your job. You have to make sure that if you're putting a hazardous chemical or even water in a spray container, you have to label it. Now, if it's just water, you write water on it. But if it is a chemical that is, considered to be a hazardous chemical, you have to have something on there to identify what's in that bottle. Now, this comes straight from OSHA compliance in North Carolina, because I asked him this question this last week. Can you take a picture? Are you listening to this, William? So, I'm not big, I just want to make sure you heard it. If you take a picture of that label that's on that product, like we saw a minute ago, let me back up, or this label here, if you take a picture of that label that's on that product, and, put it on that bottle, and put some tape over it so you don't mess the label up, that is perfectly fine. A lot of times there's companies trying to sell these labeling systems, and they're thousands of dollars. I asked the compliance guy, I said, can you just take a picture of the label and stick it on the bottle? He said, yeah, that's fine. As long as you can read it, as long as you can see the pictograms, it's fine, easy to do. There are some, there is a little controversy which doesn't affect y'all, but it is still out there. The old labeling system that's out there, the NFPA, which is this one over here, and the HMIS, which is this type of labeling system here. The problem with the two is the new labeling system has the way they code stuff is different. The old labeling system 4 was the most hazardous, and the new labeling system 1 is the most hazardous. I've asked people, and I've read articles on this, and they haven't figured this one out yet. So if you see, you just have to keep in mind, if you're looking at the old labeling system, there's a hole right here in this diamond, that means it's flammable. If it's a new label system, it won't be in this placard, it'll be stuck out there by itself. We'll see this in a minute. Gasoline will have a 1 on it in the new label system, and that old NFPA will have a 4. I haven't figured that out yet, but I just wanted to point that out. There was a difference between the two. Again, safety data sheets. You can get real creative. You don't have to go buy a new book. I've seen some people do this. They just take a piece of tape and mark out the M or the material. Now it's a safety data sheet on the front of the book. You said yours were yellow, blue? Yellow. Yep. And if you got all of them, and they say material safety data sheets, you can go in there and just mark out where it says material, and they're now safety data sheets. Perfectly. From what I understand, there's nothing wrong with that. They're still safety data sheets. I mean, that's basically what they are. They did come, what they did was they put these things in a category that you can now know when you look at it, it says safety data sheet on there. It's going to be in a uniform category and sections. There's 16 sections. In the first section, you're going to see the name of the product. You're going to see its part number, which is not, unless you're ordering stuff, it's not really all that particular in the manufacturer. That's what's going to be in the first section. In section 2, in your safety data sheet, you're going to see the GHS information up here at the top. It's going to tell you, it's going to have a picture of the pictogram. There's your signal word. It's telling you it's danger. That's going to tell you its category. And I told you 1 is the most hazardous. In this part, it's going to tell you what type of hazard it is. It's going to tell you that this will also be able to tell you about aquatic life. Look what's right underneath it. Is that the older system that's still out there? Your HMIS and your NFPA is there along with that. It's going to be in that safety data sheet. It's called, here's your precautionary statements in section 2, the safety data sheet. Wear protective gloves, clothing, and eye protection. So there's in that safety data sheet, stuff that's on that label is in that data sheet as well. Also in section 2, you're going to have, exposure routes and symptom summary. It's going to tell you that, eyes, it's going to tell you what it can do to your eyes, it's going to tell you what it can do to your skin, it tells you what's going to happen to you if you inhale it, it's going to tell you what happens to you if you ingest it. It also is going to tell you, the other piece of it is going to tell you chronic, what is the chronic? In other words, over a period of time. Prolonged, this particular chemical, prolonged or repeated skin contact may cause dermatitis. So it's telling you what the prolonged problem is with this particular one. In section 3, it's going to tell you what the hazardous ingredients are of this product. You may or may, this is, for most people, this is not something that you really need to know, but this particular chemical that I picked out has sodium hydroxide in it, tells me that it's, by volume, it's about 7 to 11%. The rest of it's usually water. In section 4, this is one that's real important if you don't handle it properly. If you don't handle it properly, you're going to have to turn to section 4 in your safety data sheet or look at the label, and that's first aid. I like the way they've got it now because it tells you right away if your first aid is about your eyes, you go to that section, the first section there, and it's going to say the symptom, immediate redness, pain, blurry vision, severe burn. And it's going to tell you what your response is in that second, and it tells you there, to rinse continuously with water for several minutes. Before we said at least 15 minutes. Let me go back to that for just a second. See, it gives you skin, it gives you inhalation, it gives you what to do if you swallow. So it tells you what your first aid procedures there in that SDS sheet is going to be. Section 5 is mostly for firefighting, that type of thing. A lot of times the fire departments, probably most fire departments actually have a list of all your hazardous chemicals that you use, so they know if they come here or come to a certain building or whatever, they're going to know what's in there. They're going to know how to respond to it. They're going to know what type of extinguishing agent they need to be able to put that fire out. They're also going to find, they're going to know, like dry chemical, they're going to know what product it produces. They're going to be able to find it out from there. Also, they're going to know what type of firefighting equipment they have to safely be around that. In section 6, it's going to talk about accidental release, what to do in case of accidental release. This particular chemical, it tells you what to do if you accidentally release it. Avoid releasing to the environment. It's going to tell you if you're qualified to do it, it's going to tell you how to clean it up. And sometimes it's not just taking this paper towels and wiping it up. Sometimes it takes absorbent material properly cleaning it up. Also, it's going to talk about in section 7, it's going to tell you how to properly store that chemical. It's going to tell you about, in this particular one, it says do not get in your eyes, skin, or clothing. It's going to tell you about wearing personal protective equipment. Again, it's already done told you one other place about personal protective equipment. And it's going to tell you about the storage, what I told you about keeping the container tightly closed, keep it locked up. This particular one, they want you to keep it tightly closed. It doesn't say anything about temperature immediately there, but it also says something about keeping it locked up. In other words, they want somebody to get protected. Whatever this is, they don't want them to get involved in. In the next section, which is section 8, here's where you're going to find about your personal protective equipment and engineering control. In this particular one, you can see it's telling you up here at the top that it routes of entry. Something they repeat themselves, and this is good. It tells you eyes, ingested, inhaled, the skin. It tells you what it is. But also down here it says engineering control, ventilation. Most chemicals that you will work with, if they produce any vapor at all or any mist, or you'll hear this word ventilation. Keep airborne constantly below exposure limits. In other words, it's going to say use in a well-ventilated room. Also, it's going to tell you where, again, it tells you about the personal protective equipment. And then 9 is going to be your physical hazards associated with the chemical. Some people may want to know what's in section 9. A lot of times, if you ever work very much with chemicals, you're going to look at this section for certain things. This section, in section 9, is going to tell you what it looks like, feels like, smells like, if there's an odor to it. This particular one is a clear liquid. It's clear, it's a liquid, and it's odorless. What's water? Did it meet those 3 definitions? Clear, liquid, odorless. There are some, I've seen other things, there are some odorless paint thinners or stuff like that. There are some chemicals that has no odor to them whatsoever. Going back to another one that I commonly talk about is, what color is household bleach? It's a liquid, but it's got a kind of a greenish yellow tint to it, don't it? You ever poured it in? I tried this, that's the reason I know. What happens if I took a clear glass and put laundry bleach in it, it's gonna look kind of a greenish, yellow, clear looking, transparent type liquid in it. What if I took Mountain Dew and poured it in another glass? What's it gonna look like? Same thing. Simple, it's very similar, it's not exact. What if we put both of those in a Mountain Dew bottle? What's it gonna look like? Mountain Dew, yeah. And that's the reason you need to know what this stuff looks like. Now, I will promise you, there's a difference. Laundry bleach is not odorless. So if you smell the Mountain Dew, it's gonna smell sweet. If you smell that glass of bleach, it's gonna smell like laundry bleach. If you put that bleach in a Mountain Dew bottle, it's gonna smell like Mountain Dew. Smell like bleach. So this will tell you what it looks like, feels like, smells like. Now, there's also some other stuff here that I want to bring out. It's kind of, some of this stuff is a little technical, just keep it in mind. Auto ignition temperature, this is not available for this one. But if you got a product that says its auto ignition temperature is 200 degrees, I will tell you, if you get it to 200 degrees, it will start burning. Auto ignition means it starts to burn. So it has an auto, a product could have an auto ignition temperature. That's when you see that number, if it's real low, the lower it is, the more flammable it is. You need to make sure that you don't get it too hot. If you get it hot, it's going to start burning. There's a couple other things on here. Also, if let's see, of course you have flash points if it's vapor. There's another one, specific gravity. If it's one, it's pretty much the same as water. If it's above one, it's going to be heavier than water. It's going to go to the bottom of the container. Another one is a scary one. If you see either a high number or a low number in pH, pH 14 is as high as you can get. If it's a pH 14, it's something that's pretty hazardous. If it's a pH 1, it could be potentially be something pretty hazardous, especially when you put a 1 and a 14 together. They will really go crazy when you put those two together. So you may want to look at that information. Okay. Section 10 is stability. This one in this section here talks about chemicals stable at normal room temperatures and pressures. So normally you can work with this in a room like today. It says incompatibilities. This is one I want you to pay attention to on the label as well as on the safety data sheet. If there's anything about that chemical that's incompatible with another chemical, you need to make sure those two don't come together. Laundry bleach and ammonia is a perfect example. You don't want those two to come together. This one says it's it's a strong oxidizing agent. It does this particular chemical. You wouldn't want to get it around zinc, aluminum, tin, because there'll be a chemical reaction when you put this together with aluminum. You get a chemical reaction with this particular chemical. Section 11 is information. We're starting to get an information that you typically probably don't even have a use for, but this is your psychological information, your ecological information, in section 12, and then section 13 is your disposal information. In section, it says disposal container in accordance with all local, regional, national, and international regulations. You need to pay attention to what it says in 13. Because if you got a container and it says that there's a certain instruction about disposing of it, you want to make sure that you do that you don't just throw it in the trash can. The next 14 is transportation. We don't have to worry about this because we're not transporting it in mass quantities. 15 is your EPA regulations. Again, that's more technical information. There are some people here that have to pay attention to that number, but it's not, most of you don't have to worry about anything like that. And then the last one is section 16. For those of y'all that are looking after the SDS sheets, this is where you're going to go to find out if it's been superseded. Now, some of you are handling the SDSs. I know Wynn said that take the old one out and put the new one in. This is how you determine in section 16 of your new SDS, this is how you're going to tell if it's the newest one. You look at the one you got, and you look to see when it was issued, and the one that the new one that's coming in, or one you think is new, and you want the most current one listed in there, and that's how you find out. And it will tell you on there, as you can see up here, this one was issued in January the 30th, 13. It supersedes one that's November 9, 2000. So that's how you can tell which one your most current one. All the other information is just reference information that's out there. Any questions on the GHS? All right, like I say, they got pictograms. If you don't have none of those, they're brought on the table. The pictogram to me is just a real quick way to tell what you're working with. And you got to do a little bit more reading about it, but that is I like them because that's a quick way to be able to tell what's going on. All right. Thank you, Randy. Y'all want me to get John back or get Randy back in? They just say that.